If you know me, you'll know how every time I see one of these anywhere, I have a meltdown. I start to cry. I'm trying to avoid any sort of contact with my eyes with this thing, but it's so bright and yellow. I can't look.
I'm a movie fan. I like to be entertained, and heck, there's even some bad movies that I do enjoy. I just did a collab with Entertainment Fanatic Reviews where we each gave you 3 bad movies that we actually kind of enjoy. But then there's just some movies that are so bad that you can't even finish. Now, a lot of these movies I saw in the theater, but I've also never walked out of the theater before the movie's over. Usually when I go to a movie theater and I pay for it, I tell myself, look, you need to stay, you need to sit, you need to watch, and trust me, that's led to me leaving the theater disappointed before, but at least I see the whole thing enough to judge it in itself. But there are some movies now that I watch and look back on, and I just can't get through anymore. These movies, I just hate sitting through them so much that the possibility of me finishing them is slim to none. So yeah, these are just 10 that I remember, and they're not in any particular order, so let's just get it started, shall we?
Oh no!
Yeah, Spawn. I mean, I love the McFarlane toys. They're really cool, and the fact that this is the only movie adaptation we have of this character is kind of disappointing. I mean, 1997 was a rough year for superhero movies in general because this is also the year that Batman and Robin came out, and I guess a lot of people thought that maybe Spawn could be a little bit better, this is cool, and I think what really let it down was not having the R rating. This was before Blade, and even The Punisher had been out for an R rating, but nobody really likes the Punisher movies that much, so they kind of still dumbed it down to a PG-13 rating, and I gotta tell ya, even Spawn, the main character, just makes it so hard to sit through for the most part. For 1997, I'll say this. Batman and Robin has better effects than this, and Batman and Robin isn't even edited that well. So the fact that there's something that was edited worse than this that came out in the same year, it's just like, come on. Like I said, I can sit through Batman and Robin because it's just hilarious. I think it's funny enough, and that they tried to make a comic book. They wanted to make something that was for the kids. But with Spawn shouldn't be anything for the children. I mean, yeah, you have a toy line, but this character is a character from hell. He's not necessarily what you would call kid-friendly in general, and yet you tried to dumb him down to be for kids in some sort of way, and it just didn't work out. I think I've sat through this in its entirety once, but since then, even if I try to go back and watch it, which is very rarely, about 20 minutes in, I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's it for me.
Oh no!
Next is Catwoman, and when I made that video reviewing it and just basically talking about how weird of a DC movie it actually is, that was the first time since I first saw it that I sat through it and watched it all, and oh my god, it was so hard to do that. I realized why after I saw it the first time in full that I never wanted to watch it in its entirety again, because you just think at some points that maybe it'll get better. Like when she actually goes out, Halle Berry playing Catwoman, and does the whole anti-hero thing. She's going to this jewelry store to steal the jewelry, but there's people there robbing the jewelry. She doesn't like that, so she's going to take out the robbers, and she had a pretty cool costume at that point in time. Like, she didn't have what would end up being the, leather outfit that was basically just made for sex appeal. Like, that one felt right. But then the further you get into the movie, the more you realize, yeah, this just isn't it. I mean, if changing her name from Selena Kyle to Patience Phillips wasn't enough for you, they give her these powers where she actually is like part cat, which again was never really part of the character. It was just more the persona. The reason she was Catwoman is because she was a cat burglar, and of course she dressed like a cat, but she never had these supernatural powers of being a cat. Even Michelle Pfeiffer's character, who was brought back by cats, never gained this, power to, leap further and all this kind of stuff, and she never, when she was in Catnip, would, rub her face all up in it. It was just so weird and cheesy, and I can see why it's one of the worst DC movies and just worst comic book movies of all time, because it tries to do something different and bring a new crowd in, But for the most part, it went from, oh, let's try to make this a thing to, you know what, let's just kind of give Catwoman more of a sex appeal. We'll hire Halle Berry, we'll put her in what is seen as like a BDSM outfit, and boom, the cash will come in, and it did not. This was a box office bomb. When talking about DC, people don't really go back to this often.
Oh no!
Battlefield Earth. This is actually one where I have not sat through the whole thing and watched. I just can't. I can't do it. That camera angle. Why is the camera angle tilted the whole movie? It works in some areas, but for a full entire movie, which, by the way, this came out in 2000, so you would think that the graphics and just the overall look would be better, but it's not. And the acting is so god-awful. John Travolta is so terrible in this movie. I really don't know what to think with it. Like I said, I've never finished it before, and there's a reason why it sucks, and there's probably going to be people in the comments like, well, you gotta finish it, you gotta finish it. No, I don't. I pretty much understand what's going on when we talk about just how bad it is. Like, I don't need to watch it till the end, thank you. I'm not there for the plot. Once I see what's going on, I just want nothing to do with it at all, and I probably will never finish this movie. Even if I watch it in chunks, I'm probably just gonna, be more lost than anything.
Oh no!
Next we have Halloween Resurrection. I can handle any other Halloween movie, heck, even the new ones I like in some sort of way, but with Halloween Resurrection, this was kind of like, this came out after H2O, which was supposed to be the other end of the Halloween series at that point in time. It explains how Michael Myers came back because, he wasn't the one that got his head chopped off at the end of H2O. He ended up, severely, puncturing the medic's, vocal cords or something, put him in the mask and the outfit, and that's apparently who Laurie cut the head off of. So now we're here, Laurie Strode actually dies at the beginning, and now Busta Rhymes wants to make this reality TV show of these teenagers or college students who go to Michael Myers' house and kind of they weren't expecting Michael Myers to show up. It was going to be more like pranking them and doing all this, that, and the other. But little did they know that Michael Myers was actually there. He went back to his home, and of course he did all the murdering there. And what really bothers me about this is the movie that tried to turn Halloween into a comedy movie. Don't get me wrong, with horror characters and horror movies, it's worked before. Freddy Krueger, Chucky, they've done well with that before, but when you're talking about something like Michael Myers, nothing about it was ever funny. He doesn't talk, he just, is a murderous, killer, whereas Freddy, he's in your dreams and he's gonna mock you, this, that, and the other, and Chucky is just a serial killer in the body of a doll, so that's just already funny in itself. But Michael Myers, again, there's just nothing funny about him, and I just found it weird that you had Busta Rhymes all up in his face, like, I'm trying to scare him in the outfit, you shouldn't do that, back off, all this, that, and the other, and, all the other ridiculous thing, every college student in this movie is really stupid, which is weird because they're in college and they would be in college for a reason, but they just seem so brain dead, and every 10 minutes they want to have sex with each other. It's just I don't know. I never understood why they made this. Maybe, okay, well, money obviously, but at this point in time the Halloween franchise was done. H2O was actually okay enough of an ending to where you could have said, okay, I can accept that for as it is, but with this, it just felt like the studio was pushing it. They had two completely different scripts, and they just tried to go with both of them at the same time, and it didn't work.
Oh no!
Then we have Elektra, which is a spin-off to the 2003 Daredevil movie, and I, again, have seen this in its entirety once, and I've maybe tried to watch it 2 other times after that and just cannot finish it. It's so boring. The plot's okay, I guess, in a way, but nothing about this movie screams, hey, watch me till the end. It just kind of screams hey, watch the first 15 minutes and then just get bored and shut it off. It just doesn't, nothing in this movie does it due diligence, and again, I think it's up there with Catwoman as one of the worst comic book movies, and this came out a year after Catwoman in 2005, and then we wouldn't get another female-led superhero movie until 2017 with Wonder Woman. So this movie, practically for a while, over a decade, killed any possibility of a female-led superhero movie even being a thing. But, do I blame Jennifer Garner? No, I think she was probably the perfect casting as Elektra, but with the script, she just wasn't able to show it, leaving us with this just bland movie.
Oh no!
I want to find the guy, the one person who watched this movie and said, yep, I liked this. This is Master of Disguise, the Dana Carvey train wreck that basically led him to just go away from acting for a while. This also came out in 2002 with Halloween Resurrection, so yeah, another great one, guys. And apparently this was a Happy Madison production, which, me being an Adam Sandler fan, I did not know that, and the fact that it is, it's like, pfft, Happy Madison's had some bad movies, but not this bad. I mean, 1% on Rotten Tomatoes. 1%. One person watched this and said, I enjoyed it, whereas the other 99% said, no, it sucks, and we'll stick by it. I mean, the jokes are just flat. Like, Dana Carvey did what Michael Myers started to do toward the end of his career. He started to overdo the jokes to the point where maybe the first time you hear it, it's funny, but then after that, he starts just repeating the jokes over and over, and it becomes repetitive, and at that point you're like, okay, whatever, I'm done with it, I'm over it. Plus, that stereotypical accent is just like, oh my god. And of course his name, Pistachio Disguisey, like, come on, dude, you couldn't work any harder on a name. It had to be Pistachio Disguisey. Like, I just don't understand, and I don't think I ever will. And like I said, to the one person who watched this movie and liked it, can you please tell me why?
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club?
Oh no!
I love Ryan Reynolds, and it pains me to put this on here, but it's Green Lantern. It's his 2011, I was going to say comic book movie debut, but he was in X-Men Origins as Deadpool a couple years before this, so it wasn't his first attempt in the comic book world, but it was his first lead role in the comic book world. And I really wanted this to be good. I really did, because at this point in time, this was when they were starting to think about, revving up the Justice League movie, getting that going. They weren't going to use Christian Bale as Batman, but we knew that eventually they were going to move on and maybe try to start their own universe. And sure, maybe a couple years later, the DCEU didn't officially start till then, but I think that they had plans to use Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern in the DCEU at some point, but this movie did so bad that everyone just kind of forgot about it, and even to this day, Ryan Reynolds just despises it so much. He said, if it wasn't for Deadpool, my career would have been over after Green Lantern, and I mean, I have to agree, and the only good thing that came out of this was that he met his future wife, Blake Lively. Other than that, the special effects are bad. Like, why did you need to give him a CGI suit? Every other superhero movie I've seen, the suit has always been, like, made and fit for the person, but you just had to give him this really bad-looking CGI costume that was just ridiculous, and the plot was bad. Nothing about it was redeemable in itself, and that was when we really started realizing the problem that, hey, DC's good on the short term, like when they let Christopher Nolan do his trilogy, or they have other one-off movies like The Joker, but when it comes to trying to start their own universe, they get a little messy with things because they try to do a lot of things at once and they don't realize it, and the scripts just turn out muddled, and that's what Green Lantern was. What I think tried to be the first movie in the DC Extended Universe ended up just being a one-off that we really don't know what universe it was for.
Oh no!
Well, this is one of those Sony Marvel movies that, didn't do too well. I mean, so far there's been technically 4 Fantastic Four movies out, and none of them have really been rated great, even though people say, of the newer ones, the first one was fine, and the second one, is what it is. But with the 2015 reboot, which a lot of people like to famously call Fan-4-Stick, it was... Oh, I don't even know. Like, I remember I didn't even see it in theaters because I really wasn't that interested. And I remember when it came on FX and I was watching it for the first time, I said, yep, nope, I'm done. I actually did not finish watching the movie. I was just like, I can't do this. This is not... The other 2 movies were at least short and to the point. But this one, it just tried to elongate everything, go through this longer origin story when we already knew what the fuck happened to him. And plus, the whole thing about making Johnny Storm and Sue Storm, like, I think it was like step-siblings, was also a little weird. But thankfully, Michael B. Jordan got his redemption down the line when he became Killmonger in the MCU, so at least there's that. But I don't know, I've never seen this movie in its entirety, and I really don't plan to, just because not only is it boring, but it's just god-awful.
Oh no!
X3. The Last Stand. X-Men trilogy is good until you get to here, and of course, Bryan Singer had left the project over creative issues after making two of the best superhero movies of the early 2000s at that point. I mean, X-Men 1 came out 2 years before Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, so you can basically say Bryan Singer kickstarted the whole revival of comic book movies with X-Men. But when X-Men 3 came out and he wasn't a part of it, you can definitely tell, as it seemed a little bit more campier than the first two, which there's no problem with that, but like it went a little too campy in places, the plot was all over the place, and I feel like again they tried to jumble too many plots in at once that you just get lost halfway through the movie, or just like, I don't understand. Like, maybe as a kid I watched this movie a lot and could finish it, but now as an adult I just go, can I even sit through this anymore? Like, it's not that long of a movie. None of the first three movies are, but like, this one to me is just the least watchable of any of them, other than maybe Dark Phoenix, but we don't like to talk about that one as X-Men fans. Whereas X3, we can say, it's got some redeemable qualities. I think it was cool to introduce some other characters and finally put an end to the story, but like, I mean, geez, and of course there's that Juggernaut line. Oh my god, why did they, like, I don't understand why Juggernaut had to, you know, be the kooky comedic, like, relief. I don't understand why, but that's just what it was. And just like the Spider-Man Sam Raimi trilogy, the third movie just stopped it from being one of the greatest trilogies of all time.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Oh
But last, and for sure least, I'm not even gonna say last but not least, because this thing deserves to be fucking last on any fucking, you know, movie. I would say that this is worse than Master Disguise, and like I said, Master Disguise has a 1% on Rotten Tomatoes. This was the movie that killed Michael Myers' career. Dana Carvey's good friend, or, I mean, they're not really friends anymore, but you get what I mean. Former co-star. Love Guru was, Jesus, I don't even know what to say. Again, the plot is weird, and the stereotypical whatever Mike Myers is doing, I don't really understand. Like, this is a movie you couldn't make today, especially having a white American, or Canadian, sorry, he's not American, a white Canadian man, or just a white American man, any white man in general, and have them get away with doing what Michael Myers did in this movie. Like, it's just not, this movie hasn't aged well, none of the jokes haven't aged well, and trust me, there's some talent in there. Mike Myers has made some great movies, and Vern Troyer was in it, and, you know, you had Stephen Colbert and Jim Gaffigan make cameos, that's pretty cool, but the thing is, they're given such shit on the script that they basically just, you know, are there for a paycheck at that point in time, when we know that those two are talented enough to crack good enough jokes in a small amount of time. I mean, Stephen Colbert has his own goddamn late night talk show, and he does an excellent job with it, but in this movie, you wouldn't think that when hearing the jokes that were written for him. I don't know if he wrote the jokes, but it seems like they were written for him because, again, he's done better with jokes before, and I think, you know, Justin Timberlake was in this, and, you know, even though he tried, you can tell he was having fun with it, but, like, again, it was one of those roles where you're just like, really? This? It's very, like, it just seemed like, with the accents that Justin Timberlake and Mike Myers were doing, they weren't trying to, like, appreciate the culture. It was more, they were trying to make fun of it by basically showing you, like, look how funny we sound. And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. Plus, why did we need on the opening credits and the end credits a full playthrough of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 and the Stephen Miller Band's The Joker? Like, we didn't need that. Maybe, like, 30 seconds of it. But other than that, why did we need the whole thing? It seems like you're just filling time for a movie that didn't even need to be this long in the first place. Like, I mean, just looking back at it now, when I first saw it when I was younger, of course I would watch it because, you know, I was a stupid young kid, and stupid young kids who are barely old enough to watch this movie would think it's hilarious. But now me, an almost 24-year-old man, would look at it and go, alright, whatever, you know, there's a lot of nut jokes and cultural appropriation, and that's what you get with this movie. It's just a heaping pile of nothing. And the Daniel Tosh cameo, this was before his show was out at the time, I believe, but it was before he was, like, humongous, and even Daniel Tosh says that he does not really look back fondly at that moment, so at least he understands there too, so that was also a surprising thing. But yeah, this movie is just god-awful garbage. So yeah, those were 10 movies that I've either seen once in its entirety and can not finish again, or I've just never been able to finish them because they're just that bad. You can tell me in the comments below, what are some movies that you have seen where you just cannot finish them in its entirety? Like, you just try to sit through them, but each time you do, you stop and you're just like, no. Or maybe you saw it in its entirety early on in your life, but now you just can't sit through it because you realize, like, okay, yeah, this is dumber now as an adult than it was when I was a kid, like all that kind of stuff. Like, for me, a lot of people get on me because I've never seen any of the original Hobbit trilogy or the new Lord of the Rings movies in their entirety because they just bore the hell out of me. It's not that they're bad movies, they just bore the hell out of me. I'm sorry. I didn't put those on here because, again, I don't think they're bad movies, but they just give me nothing. I about fall asleep like 20 minutes into movies that are almost 3 hours long. But that's it for me. Stay safe out there, wear your mask, get vaccinated, and until then, I will catch you all in the next one.
Mariska Hargitay.
Mariska Hargitay. Mariska Hargitay.